Hey guys, how's it going? So I just wanted to do an offensive power rankings for the 8 teams left in the NFL divisional playoff round. So we're just going to go through one by one and I'll give a brief explanation as to why. These are just my personal picks. They're not really completely based on stats and anything specific, but I'm taking into account the team's performance in the overall season, how they look during the playoffs, and kind of some recent history. So at number 8, I'd have the Buccaneers. I think they looked really good against the Eagles, but I don't think the Eagles was really much of a test for them. I think Mayfield's decent as a quarterback. I don't think he really lines up in comparison to a lot of the other teams' quarterbacks in the league. I think they have a pretty good all-around offense with a few good receivers, a decent running back, but I just think they didn't really show enough in the regular season, and I think a win against the Eagles at this point comes with an asterisk because looking at how they performed in the second half of the season, I just don't think they're a playoff caliber team. Next, with number 7, and this would go with number 6 as well, I think they're both about even. I'd have the Packers and the Texans. I think they both looked really electric in their wild card rounds. I think they both have really good young quarterbacks with Love and Stroud, but I just don't think they had too much of a test yet. I think they both had pretty good regular season records. I mean, the Packers really came late and had a good turnaround to their season. The Texans did pretty decent as well, but I think the Browns were probably a good test for the Texans and the Cowboys were a good test for the Packers, but I don't think the Browns and the Cowboys really played up to their true potential, and I think both the Packers and the Texans are going to have some hard tests in front of them, and I think they both have pretty fairly young teams, especially with the offense, so I just don't think they're as experienced yet to really put them that high on the rankings, but I think they're both probably about the same in my opinion. I think the Texans and the Packers would be an excellent game for a playoff game. I think it'd be a toss-up who would win, but that's why I'm giving them a tie here. Next, I would have the Chiefs. I think this is probably a pretty low ranking for them, but I'd say especially in the regular season, their offense hasn't lived up to what it should be. There's a lot of dropped passes. Patrick Mahomes, I don't think he was as good as he's been recently this year. And I think why maybe they're above the Packers and the Texans, I think the Chiefs are a really experienced team. I think with Andy Reid as the coach and their offense, and I think they found some more luck with receivers going forward with Rice and then Kelsey, which is pretty much their top receiver, but he's their tight end. And I think Mahomes is still a good overall quarterback. He can still run pretty good. Pacheco, I think, is pretty good as well. So I think the Chiefs are a pretty strong offense. I just don't think they're what they could be. I think their defense has also carried them a lot this year. So that's why I'm putting them at 5. Next, I would have the Bills. I think the Bills are one of the strongest offensive teams. I just don't think they've also played up to their potential this year as well. They didn't have as good a record, I think, as the team shows. I think they looked good against the Steelers. I think they have a really strong offense when you look at Cook with Josh Allen, who can also run, and then obviously Diggs as receiver. I think they are a pretty good offensive powerhouse, and I think their record doesn't really do its justice, so that's why I'm putting them at number 4. Next, I would have the Ravens. I think Lamar Jackson really carries their offense to what it is. I do think they have some good overall players. I think especially if their other tight end comes back, which it looks like it might even put them a step up from this. But I think Likely's filled in that role pretty good. I think you have some decent receivers, nothing exceptional. Flowers is a pretty consistent player. Pretty decent running game, nothing crazy, I would say, from their running game, which I think is why numbers hinder here a little bit for offense. But obviously you have Lamar Jackson who can run the ball and evade pressure pretty well. So I think that's what really carries the Ravens offense to what it is. I just don't think they have enough standout players all across the board, which is why I'm putting them at number 3. Next, I would have the 49ers. I think the 49ers offense is one of the most underrated things about the team. I think their defense gets a lot of credit as well, and they should. But I think overall, when you look at what the 49ers have to offer for offense, you have Christian McCaffrey, which is one of the best players in the NFL, if not the best. And then you have probably not the best receiver overall in the league, but I think with both Samuel and Ayuk, those two are a combination that other teams probably don't have. And then when you throw Kittle into the mix as well with one of the best tight ends in the league, and Brock Purdy, who's really shown to be a standout quarterback for his second year. I think he's had a few blimps, some crucial games he's lost, some crucial interceptions he's thrown, but I still think he has some of the best stats overall offensively, and especially for his second year coming off an injury. I think Purdy is a really good quarterback and can really put the 49ers in the right place. I don't think the 49ers would be where they are without Brock Purdy, even though they have a lot of other offensive weapons. After the 49ers, I would have the Lions as the best offensive team. When you look at both of their running backs combined, they have Gibbs and Montgomery, which pretty much trade off, where Gibbs is a pretty high reception running back, with Montgomery taking probably most of the carries, but they both have around 1,000 yards each. Both of those two combined is pretty hard to defend against. I think they have the best overall receiver in the NFL with St. Brown and Laporta, who has the best tight end stats in the regular season. And you also have Jared Goff. I think he looked good against the Rams. Not a super high scoring game, but I don't think he made any crucial mistakes and looked pretty good overall. So yeah, I'd say the Lions have the best offensive team out of anybody. Unfortunately, the Lions will probably have to play the 49ers to make it to the Super Bowl, which is a tough game. But I think even in the AFC, I think the Lions would give a lot of teams a hard time as well. It's just their defense isn't really as good. So yeah, just let me know how you guys would rank these offensive teams overall. So I appreciate you watching. Looking forward to seeing how these next 4 games are going to play out, and I'll see you later.